My topic is about reforming UAE copyright law, and I'm not sure if you have any idea about what's happening in the UAE in terms of copyright. So I want to give you an overview, but I'm not going to concentrate only on online piracy. I'm just trying to look at the copyright law as a whole and give you an idea of how things are done there in the UAE. As all of you know, over the last 10 years, we have seen a change in terms of information. We have information, lots of information, and over the internet, and we are using mobile technology, broadband network as well, and all of this, there is enormous amount of information. And we need to make sure that we can deal with the information. And this has been really a challenge to copyright law, especially in terms of Web 2, okay, because it's more dynamic and we need engagement. And how can we make this engagement is through having a copyright law and other IP laws as well. Just to give you an idea, in the UAE, the government decided to have a vision. It's called 2021. The aim of this vision is to make the UAE a competitive nation, just like any other nation. And in that vision, they concentrate on the knowledge economy, which is trying to make flexible knowledge-based economy to empower local UAE people and to have world-class talent to ensure long-term prosperity for the UAE. And on the agenda of this knowledge economy, innovation, research, science, and technology are pillars. All of those are pillars of the knowledge economy. So if we want to have innovation, there's lots of things that the UAE government has to look at. And one of the things, the important things, is intellectual property. And especially copyright, if you want to talk about internet materials and sharing data over the internet, we have to concentrate on copyright. So copyright is important for innovation because we need to make sure that there is information flow happening. And we don't want copyright law or any law to be an obstacle to sharing information and sharing data over the internet. In relation to the law, much of the digital content that is accessible over the internet is subject to copyright. And this can be an obstacle toward research, toward sharing of information, and also innovation if you want to use the internet for your development advantage. So the arrival of digital technology provides great opportunities for all UAE nationals, for everyone. And we need to we need to understand how can copyright law give us all of these opportunities of the internet. And just to give you an idea of what's happening in the UAE in terms of laws, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the laws applicable there. So we have basically all the laws that are international laws in relation to patent, trademark, plant varieties, and competition. And most importantly, we have the UAE Copyright Law number 7 of 2002, which is currently applicable. UAE has also signed all the international agreements that you can think of, even the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works, and also Beijing Treaty, which is really recent. And there is lots of debate about those two treaties and how they can help blind people. And I think India is also a signatory to this treaty, if I'm not mistaken. So this is also will have great opportunities for people who are blind and who want to use internet materials. Copyright in the UAE is registered in the Ministry of Economy, just like Patent Office here or IP Office in India. They're registered in the Ministry of Economy, and we have a special department for copyright. The government decided only recently to initiate an initiative to help local innovators in the UAE, especially in terms of patent, because they believe this is the way to put forward UAE on the agenda, to help innovators and to guide them through intellectual property laws and to give them financial fund in order to have more patent and more innovation in the UAE. This is the Global Intellectual Property Center, and it has released an index in 2014, and it rates countries based on their IP laws. And as you can see, the UAE it's not bad, but India is at the end, and they rate the UAE based on their enforcement and their intellectual property laws as well. And some of the criticism that were addressed to the UAE is that we don't have digital copyright law, basically. Okay, we have copyright, but it's not addressing the legal challenges over the internet, and there should be some kind of change and reform. And as you can imagine, the UAE copyright law deals with most of the things that other laws are dealing with, including computer software, protecting computer software, and even we have TPMs, technological protection measures, and we have criminal and civil provisions. But this is really not enough, and there should be some kind of reform, because we need to make sure that it is updated to the digital age. It's not enough to have all of those. We need to rethink the copyright law in the UAE in terms of its reformation. One of the ways to reform the law, and this is something which is really critical, it's intermediary liability. And until now, we don't have a comprehensive system for intermediary liability in the UAE. And this is one of the criticisms that has been addressed to the copyright law. And it's very important to make sure that we have safe harbor provisions, just like notice and take down, because it will protect basically IT companies. IT companies cannot function without having a safe harbor provision. And this is really critical. And until now, we don't have anything in our laws. There are two ways to look at this. We have a vertical regime and or horizontal regime. So either you make it legislation in terms of not only copyright, maybe defamation and other means as well, but I think a good way forward for the UAE is to have a specific law in relation to intermediary liability, to cover copyright specifically. One other things I always look at is limitation and exceptions. Limitation and exceptions are really critical over the internet. And we need to make sure that limitation and exceptions are generous enough to allow internet users, to use the materials which are available over the internet. And until now, the UAE doesn't have any provision in relation to time shifting, format shifting, reverse engineering, and also creative and transformative uses. So this is really critical, especially if you want to have a citizen who can use what is available over the internet for their own benefit and advantage. So this is important. And I'm not sure about the position of India, and I think many countries have changed their copyright law to have time shifting, format shifting, and this is not available in the UAE. One of the other things that we can look at digital copyright, whether we want to extend term of protection. I'm not sure also about India, but in the UAE, we have only 50 years term of protection, not 70, 50, after the life of the author. And the UAE law has been criticized. If you want to have a country just like Europe, and you need to have 70. But in my opinion, I think at the time being, it's better for the UAE to have 50 in accordance with TRIPS, not TRIPS plus, okay? And until now, the UAE has not signed a free trade agreement, but it might do so in the future, and they might increase the term of protection as well. But I think